Okay, we're back, everybody. Welcome to the You First podcast, your one stop shop for all things good, all things motivating, all things inspiring. Today, we've got a new guest. No, I'm kidding. We've got our co host here,
Hey guys.
and we're ready to get the show on the road. So, a lot of things have been happening over the course of this past week, this past month, this past year, these past 5 years, COVID and everything, and all that stuff. And what I really want to dive into pretty quickly is our education systems, colleges, even elementary and middle school and high school stuff. So, right now, I'm in a graduate program.
Right.
I'm in a graduate program. It's a dual master's program. Not dual masters. It's masters, and then you double dip with a doctorate. And so that's what I'm doing. And what I've noticed throughout my whole academic career is that all of these establishments have their own hidden agenda. And you know what that is? It's quite obvious, folks. Money.
You said it.
Money. And before I get into my experience, I want Alexia to talk a little bit about her experience in the East Coast, because my experience is from the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, what was it like over in New York, Long Island, when you were growing up,
hmm
and you went to college, got your degree, and you moved, back here to California?
I had a great experience as far as my outside college life. So I would say my college years were great. Going to school every day, feeling like confused on what I was going to do. I majored in business originally. Halfway through, I couldn't pass a trigonometry exam. So here I am switching over to fashion, what I knew best at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty smooth transitioning, but day to day, I did not have a good time. I didn't like to hang around with the fraternity and the sorority girls. I'd say I was pretty solo dolo.
So, after you made that switch, besides the subjects that you've studied,
hmm
of course you decided to study those subjects. It was pretty enjoyable, right?
Enjoyable, although I did have some pretty nitpicky professors. If you've ever watched The Devil Wears Prada, that was just like my professor.
Okay, so talk a little bit about the Devil Wears Prada. I don't know
I
what that is.
mean, when you're dealing with a 60-year-old woman going through her nitpicking phase, anything you do in the class is going to be pretty critiqued. So I was coming to the realization, Googling, well, what is the highest paying job in fashion? It's around $200,000 a year, but that's if you make it. But I didn't see myself obeying and listening to someone like my teacher, which most women in fashion would be that
Right.
authority for me. So then I was confused again and I was lost again. And I was like, the only answer would be starting my own business or paying myself with my own
Hard
hard
work
work,
and all that,
sales, things like
whatever.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I discovered sales.
Because like you, for me, the biggest thing is freedom. Freedom. I have this saying I go by: we're all born slaves, and that's metaphorical. We're all born slaves into a society that is governed by money. Whether that is in the States, that is in Europe, that is in the Middle East, that is in Africa, that is wherever it is. And as a kid, you don't know that. You have no concept of money unless you're forced to grasp the concept of money quickly, because of your current living situation or your environment or whatever it is. And we grow up without because it's a metaphorical thing also.
Yeah.
Money is just a tool and a concept to organize society, right? Because if we didn't have a general bartering system, that's what it is. It replaced bartering in order
hmm
to have a common language within a group of people.
Okay.
So my thing is, everything revolves around money, and I used to hate that for so long. I hated it for so long because it's just paper. It's
hmm
nothing. It's meaningless. But we provide it meaning. Humans provide money meaning,
Yeah.
because you know what it does? It keeps order,
Does.
keeps balance. And without a system that's orderly, what do you have?
A mess.
A mess. So Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's the general underlying message for me. And also, when it comes to school, I was going into something that we were talking about subjects. And what I was trying to say is that, sure, we can enjoy any subject that we study, right? We're passionate about that subject. But how did you feel about the actual school itself and how it was governed? Do you get what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
politics involved, I would say.
I didn't feel like I belonged in that kind of environment, that I was wasting precious time in the day sitting in a classroom at 21, 22.
Is it almost like imposter syndrome?
Something like that. How did you feel going to college?
Yeah, for me, I also felt like it was a complete waste of my time. Only reason, and to this day, and I quote, I'm still in universities to make my parents proud. You know, the first generation Americans, or they're they've immigrated, and we're first generation Americans. And the American dream for them was to have their children go to school and graduate and become doctors, lawyers, whatever, have a degree, and have a safe and stable job. And so for me, it has always been a double-sided coin or a double-edged sword because on one end, you know, I want to make my parents proud, and that is what a son or a child or a daughter should do. And on the other end, in my heart, all I want to be is an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait by the time I'm 30, 35 to make it. You know what I mean? By the time you're 30, 35, 40, whatever, life is long, and I get that, and patience is a virtue, and that's great. But that all ties back into, I don't know if we've mentioned it already, but the self-imposed timeline.
Mhm.
So that self-imposed timeline, people have a self-imposed timeline. What that means is that we all have our own timelines. These timelines are basically projections of where we want to be in the next 5, 10 years, 15 years, or maybe even the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever months, maybe even the next day. But we all have a timeline. Even think about a project. The way you guys can think about it clearly is, if have you ever had a project?
Yeah.
And have you ever been a self project, like for yourself, like going to the gym, or a project for school that you were like super passionate about? You give yourself a timeline, right? You're like, I need to get this done by this,
Mhm.
or I want to do this by this. Here's a good example, folks. Summer's coming up.
Summer bods.
Summer bod. People start working out generally in the spring so that by summer, 2 to 3 months later, you have a nice body so that you can go and fraternize and have fun, have a good time, and look good and attract, you know, beautiful people so that you guys can have some fun and all that good stuff. But that's basically what we're talking about. And we took a little detour when it comes to the whole shtick about school
Right.
and university and all that stuff. But what I've experienced over here on the West Coast, and I don't know if it's different in California versus New York, Long Island, or Long Island, New York. But for me, it has been a very systematic prison,
Yeah.
and it's embedded in our society in such a way where it has brainwashed the masses. School is good. School is great. School is this. I can tell you this, none of my teachers have taught me anything that I did not figure out for myself, that I did not understand clearly and at its truest form for myself. Not even the doctors at my school, not even the professors, not even my high school teachers, nobody. You know who I learned the most from? I learned the most from my grandparents. I learned the most education that's passed down, right? Knowledge. I learned the most from my parents. I learned the most from coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
And I learned the most from, you know, also friends and family.
Right.
Also, you also have, for people who don't, you got to, but I also have an inclination to go out and find knowledge for myself and understand things for myself and see the world for myself and really internalize. And we have a video about internalization. You guys should check it out. But essentially, internalize and adopt information that's out there in a way that is true at its truest form. And with the education systems today, God, I like forgive me for using God's name in vain, but it is, and this is not to say that we're affiliated with any political party, but it's just so liberal.
So taboo, but so true. They're gonna know that.
It's
Yeah.
and I mean it in the most loving way. What I mean is that there's a lot of hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is this: you cannot be this and support this at the same time. For example, you want to promote, I don't know, kindness, safety, inclusivity. However, you only make announcements and groups for certain other groups.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
That is crystal clear to me. My question is, did you find that the certain major you're in or the school you went to is more liberal and that's why you feel this way, or do you feel that all schools
Listen,
are like
it's
that?
not a bad thing to say like this school is liberal or that school is liberal, but what's bad is that when there's hypocrisy, that's what makes it bad.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious that this whole system and the people that within this organization, and most organizations are only in it for the money. And everything revolves around money. Even the DSM. Do you know what the DSM is?
What is the DSM?
So, the DSM is, the name is the Diagnostic Statistic Manual for Psychological Disorders. Yes.
I think I've seen that book in your office.
Yes. So, this book is supposed to be independent, right? When I say independent, I mean independent of any kind of bias, independent of any kind of political affiliation, independent of, I don't know, what's the root of all evil?
Money.
Money. Independent of money, independent of all these things. But it's not. This book that compiles all of these psychological disorders, all of this information, everything bit by bit. How do you diagnose someone based on this criteria? Do you know who this book was compiled by? What's your immediate thought?
Someone with prestige, a doctor, PhD, been around for a while.
Correct. Psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are basically medical doctors that have studied biology, anatomy, but have also studied psychology, and have undergone a lot of training on being able to diagnose and prescribe medications. And that's a wonderful thing, we think, right? And it is. There's definitely a science out there, and I do not disagree with that whatsoever. There's definitely a science behind psychology. There's definitely a science behind medication. But the problem is that these doctors, the psychiatrists, they are motivated by one thing. This is how they make their biggest checks.
Big pharma money.
The big pharma money. And what that means is that these people are motivated to sell you medications that you probably might not need, and are probably maybe haven't been exposed to a holistic approach. And the thing is, it creates a lot of really bad, I guess, systems.
I think that if you're not feeling well, why, if I go to the doctor, for example, tell them I'm having this and this problem, I can't focus. My grandfather my whole life was like, you should consider taking some ADHD. You can't even have a conversation with me for more than 5 minutes without talking about something else. I'm like, no, it's a blessing that my mind works a million miles a minute and I can focus on two things at once.
Yeah.
Why are we suppressing that?
You, yeah.
It's a gift we have to have that ADHD.
Yeah, I mean, whatever people want to call it, you're just a little bit more hyperactive than the next person. And what that means is that you have, I guess, an unlimited reservoir of energy. You are able to sustain that throughout the day and even until nighttime and work and be with your family and do the things you're supposed to do and be amazing. But what I'm trying to say is that these people, sure, maybe they think they're doing the right thing and maybe they do care and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, it's all fueled by being motivated to sell you drugs or to prescribe you drugs, because there's a lot of information out there regarding, you know, how much money these doctors get paid to funnel basically all of these medications to their patients. And so they're more inclined to convince you that this medication is better for you and to stay with them and to cooperate with them rather than a holistic doctor. And I say holistic doctor because you have people out there who know a lot about, you know, the environment. They know a lot about anthropology in terms of our humanitarian ancestry.
Yes.
And those people are able to pull from a lot of different resources and understand, you know, why is it to this day. For example, this is a very simple example, but hopefully it kind of guides the frame of thinking. The example is this: when you're sick, and as a kid, when you've been sick, what is the go-to drink that your mother or father or whoever person that takes care of you, or you take care of yourself, whatever it is, what is the go-to drink you drink when you're sick?
Vitamin C, orange juice.
Yes. What else?
Tea.
With?
Lemon and honey.
Yes. Because there is a holistic history. Generations of people have been doing this. And this is the same with, why do we see in this generation a lot of problem with mental health? Sure, has it been expedited and stimulated and kind of incubated and curated by the pandemic, COVID? Sure. But why is there a lot of mental health going on right now? Why is there a lot of people who have a lot of issues?
That's a good question. I think depending on the issue, it's always curable, but as a generation, everyone is overall pretty sad. And I think they allowed themselves, not to put anybody down with a clinical condition, they allowed themselves to dig that hole and they got babied a little bit. That it's okay. Let's go get you a therapist. Let's feed into this cycle because we could snap and change ourselves at any moment. Why are we staying in that state for so long?
Right.
And babying it and petting it. We have to snap out of it, kind of get a reality check.
Yeah, and so that is like how people can end up there, right?
Yes.
What would you say as a person who, you know, a regular person, not exposed to like all this like doctor stuff, the psychiatry stuff, whatever, what would your solution be for somebody who's falling into that trap?
Exercise. You need to get your endorphins in.
Yes. Exercise. Do you know that, I'm just going to pull a random statistic. I wish I had the real statistic, but I'm just going to say the majority of people who are experiencing a lot of mental, you know, tribulations and trials are the ones that exercise the least.
So
and that's saying like 0% of the time. And so taking a walk from your desk to the coffee mug, to the coffee machine, that's not exercise, you know? Exercise is taking the time, setting aside the time, going through whatever activity you go through, whether it's taking a run, working out after, or swimming, playing tennis, playing a sport, whatever it is, exercise. And so there's so many benefits when it comes to exercise. And for me, I can, if I go even 2 months or a month without exercising, it's like my body is itching
Yeah.
inside itching. I need to exercise. You need to exercise. Your brain needs it too. It releases and regulates so many systems, so many endorphins, so many chemical reactions inside your brain that reflect with with the rest of your body. And when you don't do that, you're literally letting yourself go.
Skinny, fat, doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't
It's for
matter.
your brain,
It's for your brain.
for sure. What's your favorite form of exercise?
I love so my favorite form of exercise is definitely sports. So any type of sport, a game. I have to have a game involved. Usually though, obviously it's not always going to be like that. You got to have days in the gym, you got to go work out, you got to go on a run, whatever. But if there's a game involved, let's say if it's soccer, let's say if it's football, let's say if it's tennis, whatever it is, if there's a ball, if there's a game, if there's some sort of competition, then I'm count me there. That's number one for me.
Love it.
And so, let's talk about something people can do if you're watching this and you've come to the right place. If you're looking for motivation, if you're looking to change your life and really change your life, grab it by the horns, ride it into the sunset, and make life your bad word. But if you really want to do that, what's one solution, also one exercise, simple one that people could do?
You know it. It's walking. Starting with that walk and increasing that when you're ready. So let's say you're telling me you don't have enough time in the day. I don't have a moment to myself. Everybody has at least 30 minutes to an hour, and that's all you need. You don't need to sit in the gym for 4 hours. That would be fun and amazing, but not everyone can do that. I would say start with that walk, start with a swim if you're near a beach, something. Um,
Yeah,
Yoga on the grass at your local park. You're going to ground yourself. Take your socks off. Stop looking at the screen. This is going to bring you back down to your roots. Not to get all spooky,
yeah,
but it will ground you and you'll feel better.
yeah, yeah. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your workout doesn't have to be planned perfectly. Nothing in life has to be perfect. Sure, are we striving and achieving greatness all the time? Sure, we are always. But you're human. We're all human. And humans are perfectly imperfect. No matter what you do, you're not going to be the perfect human being. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how many kids you have. It doesn't matter if you don't have kids. It doesn't matter if you only made one sale today, or if you make 10 sales tomorrow, or if you made 100 sales, or if your boss is mad at you and you lost your job, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Because if you continue movement, right? You continue moving, and if you continue striving and achieving and working, I mean, like, working in your mind, working towards something, then everything is going to unravel itself into something very beautiful. And we see this a lot with people who stick to one thing and just chase after it their whole life. We see it with the best basketball players. We see it with the best business leaders. We see it with the best producers, the best DJs. We see it with the best actors. If you stick to something, choose something today and stick to it, no matter what. You have to tell yourself, this is me, no matter what. Because I'd rather be a master of one trade than a jack of all trades. So the saying is, jack of all trades, master of none. And so I'd rather be a master of one than a jack of all. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And you actually reminded me of something. My lovely boss puts a lot of pressure on us. But one thing she does say when we have 0 days is, oh, she's cooking. Something's cooking, something's brewing. And you can apply that to life. So if I'm having that 0 day, I'm going to look forward to the next day. It's sales cooking. My fitness is cooking. My mental health journey is cooking. You can
Yeah.
apply that to anything and look for maybe not an instant gratification or results, but down the line, you're putting in that little movement, that little work, and it's going to pay off.
how does it feel when it pays off?
It's kind of like winning something. Like you gave it to yourself. It's sometimes a surprise. Sometimes when you detach, I believe that the law of detachment is real and these things do exist just from our universe along with God. But when you don't want something so bad, it comes to you. And then when you're just putting in the work and you're not expecting it, there it is. Like, how many times has it happened to you where you really needed something and it comes later?
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes we get caught up with the obsessive framework of things. We become so obsessive with something, we forget to let life be life. Let the snowball roll itself, right? When a snowball is rolling down a hill, rolling down a mountain, you don't have to push it to make it go
Mm-hmm.
and build and become bigger and roll down faster. It does it by itself. Why? Because of momentum, velocity, and that is if you find that niche for yourself, if you find that channel for yourself, if you create your whole environment in a way where you're that snowball, you don't need to be obsessive because all you have to do is just roll, move, keep rolling, keep moving. And yeah, I had something that I really wanted to touch on. It slipped my mind.
Was it that movie you were watching?
That's part of it actually. So yeah, I guess we could go there. Yeah, I recently watched a movie, and I love cinema, and I try to watch like a good movie at least once a week. And I watched this movie. It's called Legends of the Fallen. This movie, oh my god, with great actors. I can't remember their names right now. I wish I could, and I might be trolled for this. But the only one I remember is Brad Pitt, and he's kind of like the wild brother. He's a middle child. There's a younger child and an older one too. Three boys. To this colonel. He was a colonel in a war, and then he moved out to the farmlands and raised his family there. His wife left him. Yada yada yada. But there was one particular scene that I really enjoyed, and it always gets me.
What was the
And
scene?
you're gonna embarrass me right now because my brother's over there watching this podcast.
I want to.
And so this scene, no matter what you do, and I don't like, I don't show those emotions. I really don't. Um, yeah. And so this scene comes up, and I'll build up to it a little bit. The youngest brother gets into an argument with his father. They're at the dinner table. Says to his father, "I'm gonna go join the war." This is World War II. And his father says, "No, you're not gonna join the war. Don't talk to me like I've." And he's talking to him as if like he's never seen a war. The father's like, "Don't talk to me as if I've never seen a war." And conversation gets really heated, and nobody can change his mind. Not even his newly they're newly engaged, but his fiance. This fiance is staying at the house with them. There's a little piece of that story which is like a little weird. Like that fiance slept with like the middle brother while they were at the house. It was like a little spicy, but we'll skip over that. And basically, the fiance asks the middle child like to take care of her soon to be husband.
Okay.
And so what happens is the oldest son and the middle son, Brad Pitt, they end up joining the military with the youngest brother.
Ah.
So they all join the military for the youngest brother. The oldest is, he's kind of an elitist. He's trying to do his job, and he's also trying to be like the best he can be. And he's not really like acting as a protective older brother when it comes to the youngest.
Hmm.
But he's there nonetheless. He's there. Brad Pitt, however, his character, he's known to be like a wild character. Um, they collectively grew up with Native Americans, and so he speaks. I forgot the language, but he speaks the language, and he has a lot. He adopts a lot of the customs and traditions, and so he's able. He's not there for the war. He's not there for prestige. He's not there for honor. He's not there for anything. He's there to protect his little brother. no matter what. And so whether his sergeant or colonel, whatever it is, stations him on the other end of the whole ocean, he doesn't listen, and he goes to his brother's troop, and they march together, and he protects him. And you see a few scenes where he really like saves his life a few times, and he protects them, and he guards them, and he does all this stuff. One morning, the youngest brother is talking to the head honcho, the admiral, whoever it is, and Brad Pitt is visiting his older brother, the oldest of three, in the infirmary because he got injured. And this apprentice or this soldier, he comes up to Brad Pitt, and he reports that your brother just took on a reconnaissance mission from our captain because so and so wasn't able to go. And so everybody's freaking out because he's kind of like this youngest brother character. He's kind of like a little, he's not super athletic, a little timid. He's good-natured, good-hearted, very gentle. And so he's like, I'm gonna go do reconnaissance. Everybody's freaking out, and Brad Pitt gets on his horse, and he runs off into the battlefield, guns blazing, and he goes. He's running, and we see it cut. The youngest brother's in the forest. He's running. He's searching. I don't know. It looks like he's running aimlessly, or like he's searching for something. I don't know what's going on, but he's going. He's going straight. He's going to his destination. He's doing reconnaissance. Brad Pitt is like fighting armies, jumping over things, like moving mountains just to find his brother and protect his brother and do all this stuff. And we see it cut again, and the enemy army is shooting tear gas. They're shooting tear gas. And the youngest brother, he starts to inhale, and it gets into his eyes, and he starts to, if you know what tear gas does to you, it's like torture. It's really like torture. And so he can't see, he's like blinded, and he's disoriented, he doesn't know where he's going, and Brad Pitt is, he's gaining on him. And so this is the youngest brother, this is Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt is gaining on him. And he's yelling his name. I think it's Sam. It might not be Sam. I think the youngest brother's name is Sam. Sam. And he's yelling. And he hears Brad Pitt. And he's yelling, he's looking, he's disoriented, whatever. And they're looking for each other in this maze of tear gas. Brad Pitt was smart enough to take a dead soldier's mask off and wear it, so that he could give it to his brother. Because you could tell in the movie that Brad Pitt only took that, not for himself, but for his brother too. He doesn't care about himself. His mission is his brother. And so we go back to Sam, quote unquote. And he stumbles into barbed wire. And it's super painful, obviously, but also emotionally. He stumbles into barbed wire, and he's yelling Brad Pitt's name, the character. He's yelling his name, like, my brother, where are you, my brother? My brother, I'm here. And he's stuck in barbed wire, tear gassed, whatever, so hopeless. He can't move. He's like, And the Nazis are setting up a machine gun. And they mercilessly fire at him. And right at this moment, Brad Pitt is one step too late. Because right after the scene where you see them fire at his youngest brother, he's literally cocking back his gun and shooting and killing the Nazis. And he's freaking furious, and he's livid. He's running to his brother to untie him from the barbed wire. He's grabbing him, he's carrying him, and he just carries him home, and he literally fights off everybody just to get him home. And he actually dies in that scene in that forest. And Brad Pitt, he was raised in a way where it's kind of like you have to make the final kill. And that's kind of, it's I guess it might be part of the tradition. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. But he was raised to with animals, and when he hunts and all that stuff, I guess it sets the spirit free. And he did that for his brother. He had to stab him in the heart. And so I know I ranted a little bit with that story. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. But the message I took from that story, and this is how I feel as an older brother, no matter where my brother is and what he's doing and whatever's happening, if I know he needs me, then I'm blind. I don't see. My eyes don't see. I have one target. And I don't care who's in front of me. I don't care what's to the left, what's to the right. I don't care what's behind me. And I'm going to save my brother. And as an older brother, I don't care who you are. If you're the oldest in your family, even if you have multiple siblings, I don't care who you are, multiple brothers, multiple sisters, whatever it is, that's your job, to die for your siblings. Sure, it's metaphorical, but when it comes down to it, is it really just metaphorical? Not to me. And a lot of people aren't serious like that anymore. This generation, this life, this world that we're living in, nobody really has that conviction, that end all or be all, that I'm going to do this no matter what. God kill me. And that's why a lot of people aren't happy, because everybody's 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Nobody's going to take that bet on themselves. Nobody's going to believe in themselves. Nobody's going to do what it takes and go all in on themselves to make sure their dreams come true. Sure, I'm saying nobody. Let's say most people in this generation. And that's why we see a lot of mental health. Let's say most of the people in that population. Because if you really cared about your health, if you really cared about the people around you, if you really cared about being a leader, if you really cared about getting to that next level, you would do the things that are necessary of you. Because whether you believe it or not, and I think we've touched on it on a previous podcast, we all have a limitation that we set on ourselves. And that limitation is in our mind. We program a ceiling into ourselves subconsciously because of maybe our experiences growing up, our experiences with friends, how things that have happened to us, trauma and things like that. But there is a way to overcome trauma. There is a way to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's going to take work. And in this generation where people have an attention span, that is, I guess, worse than a fly's attention span, you're not going to get that. And it's very disheartening, and it's very hard for people who are like myself and hopefully like you out there that feel this way to connect to that population. And so if you were raised right, if you have a good head on your shoulders and all that good stuff, and you've sought out knowledge and you've figured this out for yourself, you're usually attracted to the same people. And so those people don't mind being sometimes it's lonely on the way to the top. That's what you told me the other day.
It is.
And it's true. It couldn't be more true.
Lonely's good though.
But when you get to the top, you see a lot of the people who are just like you over there.
Yeah.
And it's a party. And so there's also like an analogy I like to use. In Greek mythology, it's like in Greek mythology, right? You have Mount Olympus. Mount Olympus is basically all the gods' residence. So they all reside over there. They do their stuff. That is for the gods. It's super holy, super elevated. Humans are below. They're on the human plane. The gods over here in Greek mythology. But there are so many stories in Greek mythology where a demigod is basically a human mixed with a god,
Right.
conceived by a god and a human, whatever it is, where they had to elevate themselves by doing. With Hercules, for example, he had to do his Adam. Do you know what they're called? Hercules's uh, trials, right? He had 12 trials, yeah. So he had to complete 12 trials, and by that time, I think 12 labors, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think by that time he was able to achieve the status of God,
Okay.
and that's basically it for me. I know I ranted a little bit on that, but what are your thoughts on what's going on?
I think what you said was so important, and you needed to take that time to explain all of it because between the Brad Pitt story, between the meaning behind it, applying it to life, it just shows that all of these things have commonalities, and we are just at the end of the day trying our best. But sometimes trying your best isn't even your best. They say, "Oh, I'm putting in my 100%." You're
Yeah,
putting in like 60.
this is true. This is
Unless you're
true.
really, really like I put my best when I'm trying to hit a quota or when I'm trying to lift a certain weight or, work out as hard as I can because I know that I'm going to feel so good after going in the steam room and getting rewarded, looking at my commission check and getting rewarded. No risk, no reward.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
I look at life. And touching on when you're with people that build you up, it's going to be lonely because you're going to have to get rid of that girl that's always mean to you or that friend that's jealous, you know? But at the end of the day, you rather be with the people that are happy for you, good for you, and then you'll grow like no other.
Yeah, there's a lack of pure genuineness in the society lately because everybody has an ulterior motive, whether that be it to get a higher position in their environment, in work, in professionalism, whatever it is, or whether that be money or however it is. There's always some kind of ulterior motive, or maybe there's some jealousy, or maybe whatever. And everybody's trying to shove their propaganda down your throat on how they see the world or how the world should be or what's going on and this is anarchy and this is that. Are you kidding me? Nothing that's happening today hasn't happened in the ages that have come before us. And you don't have to get all super crazy and be like, well, they didn't have technology like this. They didn't have this like this. Sure, they didn't. They had it in a different way. But the discourse and the debates and the arguments and the troubles that we're having aren't new troubles. So, with everybody trying to shove their propaganda down your throat, I want to circle back to the education system because that's where it happens the most. You know, people people are going so far into.
We had a phone call.
We couldn't have controlled that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we had an interruption. Something interrupted the podcast, and my uncle got lost in the lobby. We went on a little vacation to Vegas to visit my grandparents. They live here, and let's just circle back to where we were. We were talking about people shoving their propaganda down other people's throats.
Where I stand on that is I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think when someone says you're ugly or you have to do this, you should take it personal. I think you should feel bad for them and see it as something that they have to go through because we've all, said something not nice in our life. But if you keep doing those things, it's going to have a reflection of you and you need to learn from it and shape up.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. What?
Or you're going to miss out on great people in your life.
Yeah.
That's just the cold truth. And we're honest on you first.
Yeah, we're always going to be honest with you guys. We're always going to tell you guys the truth. And my background in all this coaching stuff, we talk about a lot of things here. My background is in solution-focused coaching. My background is in psychology as well. I've got a degree there. My background is also in marriage and family therapy. And so those are basically, where I pull most of my education from. Also, right, we're all individual and unique, and I try to learn from as many people as I can, That's people, clients I've worked with. That's family. That's friends. That's people you see and hear that are talking and debating right now in our world. But what I wanted to circle back to in terms of what's been going on in schools and the things that I've seen is that a lot of these schools are trying to shove their propaganda onto other people. And that's not necessarily, I mean, it is a bad thing in my opinion. I think when there's so much hypocrisy, like I've been saying, hypocrisy as in, they're trying to teach you all these things, but at the end of the day, are you really helping that person by following a textbook? No, you're not, because human interaction, for me, what I've learned is different than what they teach you in a textbook. It's different from a controlled study. It's different from a controlled room. It's different from, as a coach, we used to do these coach practices where another coach in your class would be your coachee, as they would say, your client, and you would perform coaching on them.
Yes.
And that's not an accurate representation of what a client might be like, a fresh client too, who's never done coaching. And so for people who are in these education systems, and there's a lot of political agendas being shoved onto other people as well, not just in how they want to feed you information in terms of, your studies and the subject, but also in terms of worldviews, it's not cool. Because you're going to have it's almost a purist mentality. For example, if you do not think like us, then you will not have any friends here.
And you're going to get an F.
Yes. If you do not, kiss the feet of your professor, in terms of like, kissing ass and all that stuff.
Yes.
Then they're going to be more hard on you and grade you more harshly. And sure, is it a good skill to have, to be respectful and kind and cordial, especially if you want to do your own thing and be entrepreneurial on the side and not let your professors know, or not let your coaches know, whatever it is, your professors and your colleagues, whatever it is. It's a good lesson to learn if you want to communicate properly and effectively. But where is that line being drawn between I'm genuine and I'm fake? Right? So it teaches you what I dislike about our systems is that it teaches you, especially if you're not like them and you don't think like the rest of the people, it teaches you to be fake. And if you have a hard time being fake, then it's going to be like torture. And for me, folks, it's torture because I am not a fake person. And so I'm completely myself, and that's how you should be. You should be completely yourself, believe in yourself, believe in everything you've learned and what you've studied, and believe in the truth. And the truth is that I come from a religious household, a conservative household. I come from a background of all these different educations, and I've been able to discern the truth from the jargon. And I'm not going to have somebody just because they've completed a degree a couple years, a few years, maybe even 10 years, a decade or two earlier than me, tell me what to do, especially if they're not where I want to be. I hear this a lot, and you guys you're going to hear it again here, where you shouldn't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know Ariel one-on-one and it's your first time watching him, he is 100% authentically, unapologetically himself 24/7, and I feel like that's where funny. We're cut from the same cloth almost, and why we can get along, because everyone can put on that show for a professor, but when you're taking that lesson you're learning and tying it into life, the line has to end there, or it's just going to become a habit, and then you're not yourself anymore. You're sheep. We don't want to be sheep.
I agree. You don't want to be sheep. No. You don't want to be sheep at all. And, Alexia and I, and this is, you're probably going to notice it with people around you too, birds of a feather flock together. And that's really how it is. That's why there's sometimes you have a more genuine connection than, the person you've been around for 10 years. And that hits home. There's this, it's probably completely unrelated, but, sometimes people need anger within themselves in order to create change.
That fuel, fire, spark it. I know.
that anger, it fuels growth sometimes. And so for me, I might still have an accent now because my first language is Hebrew. However, when I was in my undergrad, I had, funny enough, I just took a yoga class. I'd never taken yoga in my life besides when I played football. I took a yoga class, a hot yoga class, because I liked the heat
Yeah.
and sweating and all that stuff. And my instructor was amazed by how I did, and we ended up talking after. And she was like, "Wow, your accent is so exotic. Where are you from?" And you want to know what I told her?
What did you tell her?
I said, "LA."
That's so funny.
And this was in Arizona. And she said, "Oh, really? You don't seem like you're from LA or whatever and stuff like that." And I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but that made me so frustrated and so
Yeah.
angry because sure, was my first language a different language? Yeah. Was I born in the States? Yeah. Was I raised in America?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have I been speaking English and have I been around Americans my whole life? Yeah. So it was pretty funny that a yogi was trying to tell me that I wasn't
From,
fluent in English
yeah.
or I had an accent. And for me, I guess I took it the wrong way, but it made me really be mindful of how I speak. And then after I gave myself more confidence because I was like, what? People are gonna put you down for having an accent. You know, so many immigrants come here and make something of themselves with accents and whatever
Yeah.
it is and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Who cares if you have little enunciation problems or whatever's going on? As long as there's an effort to grow and make yourself better than you were yesterday, then that is the best thing you can do for yourself. And so I don't believe I have an accent. I may or may not. It's the funniest thing to me. I feel like I also have a very broad vocabulary, and when I speak with Alexia, she knows this one on one as well. And it's the funniest thing. I do though. I interchange on my day to day between both of those languages. So it's I have a little dance in my head when I'm translating things.
So funny.
Yeah. But the overall message is to, it's sometimes you need that anger. Sometimes you need that anger to fuel yourself, to fuel change. And so, Alexia, I want to ask you, what can you recall a time where you had to use anger in order to fuel change in your life?
So many times.
Name the best example that comes to mind.
Okay, let's see. When I wanted to stop feeling sorry for myself as far as what I'm going to do for work, I was so confused. And then I just pushed forward on Indeed and LinkedIn like every day for 100 applications a day. And I was just applying and applying. And I was like, I want this specific thing. I don't want to go in person. I want to work at home.
Yeah.
I want to be a free person. I'm big on freedom. So are you.
Freedom.
Huge. I don't want someone standing over my shoulder, but I want to make good money. And then sales came up, diving deeper into that, commission, and it created this fire for me that I got this job. I got it in my hands. I have the opportunity. There's 200 people right now on deck for training. They're only going to select 20. I have to be one of those 20 or I'm going to lose a job I really wanted in the 2 weeks. They were weaving out people. I made it. And that's what sales is. You can't keep your job unless you hit quota every month. They don't need you. You're replaceable. That's a hard truth. I guess that always fuels me because I'm secretly angry at my boss. Secretly. Because I'm like, how could she do that? But that's what sales is.
And low key, that helps you sell.
Low key, it does help me sell. Even when I see or hear her text, and she's awesome. But it's just the nature of having a boss. It's so motivating to have them text you like, you didn't hit anything today. Like,
It's accountability.
go to this area. Like, she cares so much about me, but I take it a little personal.
Yeah.
But also, does she care about me? Or is
You
it
never
about
know
her?
because you've never met this person.
I don't
but
know,
I
yeah.
do like the fact that there's accountability. I do
Yeah.
like the fact that you're able to channel your energy into something that is productive and useful. However, what I dislike is maybe people might be confused. Is it okay to be angry all the time?
No, can't be angry all the time. You're living in that anger, that's going to manifest in a lot of different directions of your life.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So
No.
what I'm trying to get at here is that it's sure, are you able to utilize anger in a way that is able to benefit you and others around you? Yes, of course. Imagine if some random person broke into your house or hit your woman or whatever it is, or something happened and you didn't feel anger or protective or any, you know what I mean?
Imagine, thank you for coming in.
Jolly good fellow, you know, here, let me roll out the red carpet. No, thank you. And so, sure, it's good. It's good. And how Alexia explained it, it is good also for motivating you to do things, and how we've explained also in the beginning of the podcast, motivating you to exercise and all this stuff, you know. Sometimes you just got to wake up and be pissed off at life in order to freaking change. And so is it okay though to always be angry? It's a confusing question. Why? Because you're channeling that anger into something and
Yeah.
it's kind of being released. And so I feel as though if you're releasing your anger in a way that is healthy, exercise, I don't know, studying, working on a business, building infrastructure,
Making 300 dials.
making 300 plus dials a day, selling, then that's an outlet. It's a healthy outlet, and I commend you, and I hope that you keep doing it. And also find the time to find inner peace, meditation, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe read or whatever it is. Go be by nature, all that good stuff. And it's important, you know. We're animals. We're mammals. We're animals. We're supposed to be part of the natural order, natural world. And so a lot of people in modern society are staying indoors doing their jobs, you know, online doing their jobs, all these different things. And we forget that in order for us to feel good, we need to connect with the outside, or else sometimes our own lives may feel like prisons. And what did we speak about at the beginning? Freedom.
Freedom.
And so I want you all to take this home with you. Buy your freedom from the government. Motivate yourselves. Achieve something of yourself. Go after your goals. Go all in on yourself. And never give up. Right? Because freedom is priceless. And so is your life.
And looking at the bigger picture, because may I love sales today, but will I do it in 10 years? I don't know. It's a stepping stone
Yeah.
to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And if you have that bigger picture in mind, just a journey to your destiny.
Yeah. So check us out, guys, on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and leave us a follow. And any questions you may have, we're always checking stuff.
Put
and
it down.
Yeah, we'll answer anything you guys got for us. Anyways, have a beautiful rest of your week, and thank you all for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.